That should do it, right? Yes. Okay. All right. So let's start again. Welcome. We're recording this for folks that have not, that won't be able to make it. But today's agenda essentially is just to have a snapshot of our current state of the research, and also to think systemically, what is our goal? What is the goal of the team, which is a very diverse team, and we'll go over that here in the agenda. How will the research team and study team be organized, and what is the true, or what is the final output of what we're trying to achieve? And I'm here at Cal State University Fresno, and where CSU Fresno is coordinating with, cooperating and collaborating is a better word, with UC Davis in use of augmented reality and estimating analysis. And so we've had a series of meetings on that today. And Dr. Brad Hyatt, who's the Associate Dean at Lyle's School of Engineering here at CSU Fresno, will be facilitating this meeting. And so I'd like to first of all thank everyone for attending. Again, we're recording this for those on the research team and study team. So for folks that couldn't make today, that they'll be able to see the recording. This recording will also be placed in the data room, and I'm going to hand it over to Brad because he's more efficient at time than I am. And Brad, tag you're it. And I would like to kind of know, we have 13 or 12 attendees, and I'd like to kind of maybe know who they are, and but we'll make that pretty quick.
Yeah. So we'll just jump into that first agenda item. So introduction. So I think the most efficient way is if I call your name, if you could just tell us your name, what you do, and then what your interest is specifically. So just those three items: your name,
interest in the study, or
interest in. So yeah, your name, and then what you do or the company you work with, and then the third thing is what is your interest specifically with this group here with lunar construction. So Dustin, you're at the top of my list. If you want to unmute yourself and.
Hi, Dustin Devan. Where to begin? So I run a venture capital funded company called Edify. We support pre-construction estimating for large commercial builders. I also founded a company called Building Connected, which was acquired by Autodesk for $275 million in 2019. I ran construction strategy for Autodesk for a couple of years. So I've been in and out of construction space for the last 20 years, and mostly inside it as building technology solutions that are very scalable. Building Connected is the most used bid management tool and qualification service in construction. I think Edify is the most advanced pre-construction solution. Why am I interested? I studied aeronautical engineering. So when you study rocket science, you're always interested, and it's marrying things that I find fascinating personally and things that I find fascinating professionally. So looking to see how I can help.
That's great. And Dustin, you're alumni, as is Keith Stout online from University California State, or California, UC Davis. I don't know why so long to get out of my mouth, but all right, welcome.
Thank you, Dustin. Anne, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Anne Liu, and I'm currently doing a summer internship for the Institute of Construction Innovation, and I am helping put together the data room and also to reach out and coordinate any information and timing. Later on, I'll be sharing what the data room's current state is looking like, and I am just here to learn as much as I can.
Thank you. Felipe?
Hi, everybody. Felipe Engineer Manriquez. I'm working as a Project Delivery Services Director for the Bull Company, and I sit across some national perspectives in and outside of California, but primarily working in California on some large multi-billion-dollar projects. And my interest here is just to see and stay attuned with what technology can offer construction to make our lives easier, better, and faster.
Okay, thank you. Jackson?
Yeah, let's move on.
Hi.
Oh.
Yeah, my name is Jackson Chang. I work for Doran D. Lee's here in Hawaii. So we're one of the biggest mechanical contractors out here. My specific role in the company, I work on pre-construction and special projects. I figure this is a pretty special project and wanted to see how I can contribute to that.
All right, welcome.
Thank you. John Shampton?
I am John Shampton. I work as the chief estimator for State of Utah Division of Facilities Construction and Management. And I am a member of ASPE along with Paul. And because of that relationship, I was introduced to this group and decided to see what I could learn and what I could help with.
All right, welcome.
Thank you. John Silling?
Hi, everybody. Yes, I work for Wharton Smith Construction. We're a public builder down in Florida. I actually met Paul Martin at Advancing Pre-Construction in Denver. It was a pre-con conference, and I was pretty excited about what was going on, what this group had to offer, what we were studying. So kind of just formed that connection, and we're looking to help in any way possible.
Well, thanks, John.
Thank you. Yoka?
Maybe Yalka.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Yauka. I currently work as an architect for Brian Bloom Architecture. Some of the projects we're working on are residential, commercial. One of the large projects we're currently doing is a research facility for the Claremont Colleges. I graduated with my master's from UC Davis, and I was actually Paul's teaching assistant for one of his courses. And I would say Paul has been a great mentor of mine, and is also quite the powerhouse when it comes to research projects. So because I've been kind of busy with work, and I'm also part of the American Planning Association board, I haven't really been able to keep up with Paul's pace. But when I saw this email pop up, I was like, I want to see what this is about and meet the team.
Well, that's very kind, and just the team knows Yalka is a young professional, but his intellect and his posturing is going to be one that will influence the industry in years to come. So thanks for joining us today, Yalka.
Thanks, Paul.
thank you. Keith?
Thank you. Yeah, Keith Stout. I'm with the Air Force as a civil engineer, directly working on strategic basing for the Air Force and Space Force. So we work a lot of the components from finding the sites all the way from manpower to site surveys and so forth, and the overall picture. But anyways, as an interest in this endeavor really captivated me, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to participate and contribute what I can. Over.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't cut you off, Keith. I was going to say thank you. I hope I didn't cut you off there.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Good. Thanks.
And you graduated UC Davis also. Yeah.
Yes. Architecture program, just like Yoka.
Yeah. Ah. Perfect.
Great. Mark?
Yeah, good afternoon. Mark Hilberger, NASA's Principal Technologist for Advanced Materials, Structures, and Lunar Construction. I'm really heavily involved with the APL LSIC community, specifically the Excavation and Construction Working Group. And it's really kind of funny that this topic came across my email because I was recently just fiddling around in my notebook trying to think of ways that we could do not just cost estimation, but also again, an understanding of what types of and numbers of say construction assets will be required to build certain types of infrastructure. And in my mind, one of the biggest challenges is, terrestrially, we're dealing with primarily mature construction technologies, and the costs and such are pretty well defined. But now we're working with new technologies, emerging technologies, and how do we reflect a lot of the unknowns associated with these different technologies as they're developing and bringing them into some sort of cost estimation construct. So I'm super interested in everything that you guys are going to be doing.
That's awesome, Mark. Thank you. It's right in line with, I think, where this study team's going to. So that's really good to hear. And I'm really glad you joined us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Steve?
Hi, I'm Steve Fair. I'm Nessa Langley's Senator Transformation Portfolio Manager. Been involved with LSIC as well. My background before coming to NASA, I was involved heavily with facilities construction, project management, program management for Navy's global facilities. PhDs in systems engineering, multidisciplinary. Among everything else, I actually taught engineering economics for a couple semesters at Old Dominion University. So suffice to say, when I saw this hit my inbox, it piqued my interest. So joining in to get smarter and better understand this on the context of the lunar economy.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And Young.
Hello. Voice?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. My name is Young Hoon Kim from University of Louisville. I'm sorry, out there is a construction on the way, so it's lots of noise. So
we all like construction.
yeah, so probably I'm in a different time zone. I'm from East time zone and Turkey, Louisville. My expertise is structural engineering in civil engineering. My most research area is about building construction material with construction materials and building and bridges. So I hope with my expertise on the lunar construction, and I met Paul in the LSIC in this spring with my ongoing research and almost done the research with the lunar rigorous with the year. So I am very glad to join this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you all. We appreciate it. Very excited for you to join us this day and to join the discussion. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anne, and she's going to talk a little bit about the organization of the data room that she's created with the different resources and research.
If I may just set Anne up. Anne has set up an organizational data room, and I just want to premise this is that there's a tremendous amount of you'll see different focus groups within this because it's a big thing we're tackling. And what we want to do is make the information flow cleanly, clearly, and where we're all busy, all of us, and we don't want to look around for information. So we're trying to come up with a system that can articulate the relevant, most important things that each group needs to get up to speed on. And also, if you bring something to the table as far as a research paper or a white paper or something, that you would know exactly where to put it. and then we'll have a protocol for that as well. But so Anne, thank you very much. You always do great work, and she's a student, going to be a senior at UC Davis, and she was an independent study on NASA construction moon estimating last quarter. She's interning for the Institute of Construction Innovation over the summer on this subject matter, and also will be independent research student in her senior year for moon construction as well in the fall. So go ahead, Anne, if you got it.
Okay, so I'm unable to share my screen, but I did
I will
drop
do
the
that.
link in the
I will
chat.
do that right now. My apologies.
The
Okay. you said-
current database is still being set up as we're uploading more documents, but let me see if I can give a quick walkthrough of what is here. 1 second, technical difficulties. Share screen. Okay, is everyone able to see okay?
Actually, stop sharing. your
Oh,
screen.
do I stop? Oh,
Yeah.
that was user
go.
error here.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so when you go to the data room, it's going to still be updated. And going through it, you have 3 main sections: the priority readings, the medium priority, and general reference. Within each section, we have 12 individual sectors that are going to be the topic, the different topic sections. And within them, you're going to be able to see any linked PDFs. And also whenever they're posted, there will be a new notification at the top of the data room somewhere here that lets you know what is newly being updated. Within it, there's also the surveys that some of you might have already received in emails. And in case you haven't had a chance to complete them, here's a quick little reminder. It'd be really, really helpful if everyone is able to fill them out so we can know everyone's interest levels and availability timing for future meetings. Other than that, this is just general information that we currently have working on, and I will be updating it almost daily. So if anyone has any questions, just send me an email afterwards. It should be pretty easy to walk through.
Okay, so can I spend a couple times on this? Okay. So just a couple of things is the 3 categories is priority versus medium priority and reference readings. Let me explain what that is. Priority means that if we're on the research team, no matter what team we're going to go into, whether it's our expertise is in integrated project delivery or lean construction or pricing structure or engineering modeling and its tie into estimating analysis, whatever that is, when you open up priority, those are those boxes of the focus groups, because and we'll get into that a little bit more. But the priority, consider that something that we all should at least dabble in. Now, look, some of this is, I'll give you an example. The NASA estimating handbook is in that, and it's a lot of reading. By the way, we go over this at the estimating class at Davis, but point being is it's pretty thick reading. And you don't need to be an expert in it, but just understand it's there, take a glance through it. And then no matter what your expertise is, there's probably a section in that handbook that probably addresses it. It's very sophisticated. And what we don't want to do is change the norm of NASA. If the study team finds something that can be organized or something like that, then we would have to be very clear about what, why, and state the case. But we're using the foundation that NASA has already put together for a variety of reasons. As an example, in that data room, there's also NASA's work breakdown structure, which is going to be absolutely key. And their insight when that was put together quite many years ago is that it is almost infinite as far as how it's set up. We can just keep going and going and going and going, which is perfect for this system that we're looking into or process. So I would say your priority doesn't matter, what group you're on, take a look at the priority. Medium priority is something that is loosely connected. It hasn't been, it may not be, tied necessarily 100% to the process, but it's relevant. And then reference readings are readings that are related, but we're not sure exactly if it's relevant or not relevant, but it's worth to note. And then why don't you open up the priority? Oh, wait, you just have to, okay. We just have to, like for instance, unit cost and work breakdown structure, there's NASA handbook. The reason we want to understand the priority, as an example, work breakdown structure, is that NASA, as we're diving into this, has decades and decades of historical cost. And we have to make sure that the integrity of all of their information as we dive into systemic pricing and reliable cost of time and cost for moon construction, lunar construction, and all of the things involved with that, that we don't lose, that NASA doesn't lose the integrity of the data. And so that's why that's really important. We're not necessarily reinventing the wheel. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're exploring a refinement of process for 100%. The goal is 100% reliability, fail-safe reliability on cost and time for lunar construction. So, if with that, Anne, thank you so much. Outstanding job on that. And so I would say, Anne, if someone wants to submit a paper, how would they do that?
If you would like to submit a paper, I can set up a Google form for people to send in, or feel free to just email it to me and title it with paper submission would be great.
Yeah. And when I say paper, I'm not saying write a paper and submit it. I'm just, in your travels and your expertise, what do you see that's relevant? And now with the structure, we can place it in, but we don't want everyone just dumping things in without understanding relevance and stuff. So we'll coordinate that, but we want this to be a robust and encompassing, process. So all of us get what we feel is relevant. So, yeah. Okay, great. All right. Good job, Anne.
Thank you so much, Anne.
And let me go back to share screen.
So as far as the agenda goes, we kind of talked about the third and fourth item there. So the fifth item is expertise input and its relevance. So you maybe want to talk a little bit about.
Sure. We don't need to put the categories up on the board again, because we'll have to switch screens again. But in the data room, it has 10 categories of expertise. And somebody probably mute. There you go. And so what that means is essentially we're looking into a challenge that is extremely complex. And, the way I explain it is, not only do we, the reality is 98%, it's a study, McKinsey study. Dustin, you probably are aware of this study. McKinsey did a study about a year ago where 98% of all mega projects in the US, 98% are over 30% over budget. Can you imagine that? 98% and behind schedule of mega projects over $1 billion. Well, we have to consider that we're using top-notch technology. We're an industry that is growing and maturing fast, yet we still, on mega projects, are 98% over budget. Now, let's say that there's a 5% error in that study. Bottom line is it's still unacceptable. And if you think about the complexity, just for a moment, think about the complexity of estimating time and cost for technology that is still being developed. What type of habitat? How do they fit together? How is the infrastructure of electrical communication going to be distributed? And to understand that holistically, it's not just one profession. It's not just the estimator. It's not just the mechanical engineer, the aerospace, professional, or even the technology, research and development, or the programmers. It's all of us working together to understand this process. And so what we want is we want a cross section of lenses with construction insight, expertise. At the same time, we also want industry expertise that would be interacting as well. And so we felt that the best way to do this is to break it up into specific components of knowledge areas. And just because we started with these 10, they can be decreased or increased as the team feels is relevant. But this will allow individuals like yourselves to pick an area that you really want to focus on. And then the task will be make sure that all of these sections of expertise, which has to be thought of systemically for a zero tolerance of variance of risk in very complex and extreme conditions, where it all has to work together. So that's essentially what that is. And if you wanted to add anything that I may have forgotten.
I think it's, yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
Okay,
That's
good.
great. And maybe that kind of dovetails into the expectations for different levels of involvement.
Yeah. So expectations at different levels. Look, we're all professionals, and that's why we're here. We have this isn't currently it's an invite. In other words, if someone's interested and they hear about it at a conference or whatever. But this first 35 are folks that have just they're thinkers in the industry, whether it's aerospace or the construction or design development or technology. And we're all busy. There are some folks that are really passionate and they have time. And so we want to understand, how do you want to get involved? Do you want to just be someone that maybe will contribute to some of the white paper that we're writing, or do you want to take more of a passive role and cautiously, we use the word cautiously involved, meaning that you're not sure yet. You want to check it out, and you'll show up to the meetings you can. All meetings will be recorded. And you're not sure yet. You're just kind of checking things out. And then the next one is, you just want to be an observer. You just leave me alone. I'll show up to the meetings. I'll listen to the recordings, and I'm interested, and I just want to hear what's going on. And so it just gives us a level of this thing is very cumbersome as far as what we're trying to organize, as far as the amount of knowledge we need from the different sectors. That we need to have a good understanding of what are our resources as far as a research group and study group, and we don't want to overburden somebody by asking certain things that if we know someone just wants to be an observer, the team will kind of back off on asking certain things from them. So you dive in, carve your own path, dive in as much or little as you want. I told Stephen Robinson, who's an astronaut at Davis, and he runs one of the labs that's funded by Davis. I asked him to be, on the thing, and he said, "Well, I'm pretty busy." I said, "We're all busy. The only expectation is that there are no expectations, and because you literally can carve your own path, but we need everyone's input is going to be really important." So,
great. So I think that kind of sets the table for the next portion, which Paul's going to jump a little bit into the kind of the current main theory and the starting points. And this is going to be probably the most intense portion of today. We probably won't be able to get through some of the items on the agenda, but we'll come back to those in a future meeting. But at this point, I'd like Paul to kind of run through the underlying theory and and the way that he has it structured, and
Yeah.
they'll kind of lead the discussions moving forward in the coming weeks and months.
So the important thing to note is that it's not one person in this study. I'm going to show you some theories, and it's only I'm presenting, but I'm not the author of this. The author is all of the colleagues that have contributed, Brad and Reese with this U.S. State Department that couldn't be on the call today, and Fred with some major contractors, and there's a lot of folks on this team that really have a passion for this, and there's a lot of thought behind this. So I'm going to just give a very, very basic overview of the process from the beginning to the end, but we're going to be at a very high altitude. And to show you what type of altitude, I'm going to go from 30,000. The people from NASA are going, 30,000 feet. That's nothing. But we're going to go from 30,000 feet, and I'm going to drop it to, let's say, 20,000 feet. And the 20,000 feet, and I'm not going to go over this because, but this is a picture of the process flow. And this is a lot of input from the thing. Look, I'm not going to go over this. We're simplifying this. I'm going to show you a much more simplified thing. But essentially, what we're looking at is a systemic way of articulating design and engineering from the very beginning of the business case or the mission, funding, all the way through pre-launch to launch to deployment to execution, and then a feedback loop which articulates what the prediction was at the very beginning. And I'm going to just kind of pause there a little bit. I'm not going to go too much detail because this probably would take about an hour to go through, and we don't have that. And right now we're putting some slides together that will simplify this a bit. And again, this is only 20,000. If you can imagine, that's why we need 20,000, elevation. What we will need, and that's why we need specific groups to focus on very specific things. As an example, at the very beginning on the left side of your screen, those are individual, one could be a group on habitation, and they're forming their technology and what have you. One could be communication and maybe electrical infrastructure, what have you. And all of those will be putting processes together and putting their technology together to the end game is to contribute to construction on the moon. And the estimate starts there. And not only that, but the important thing is that estimate at the very beginning has to talk to the very end when they're installing it on the moon. And think of it this way. Think about this. In estimating analysis, we teach the students, look, when you do estimate drywall, you don't need to count the screws. Well, on moon construction, think about this. And this is approximately one astronaut per day could be as much as $2 million a day. You can't call up Home Depot and say, hey, we need some more nails, things of that nature. And so not only do we have to count the screws in these conditions, because remember, everything is rehearsed with certain scenarios. It is intense to do a moonwalk. It could take 2 days to plan a moonwalk, or a spacewalk. Moonwalk, I don't know what that'd be, but just everything is rehearsed, planned. There's so much cause and effect. Think about this. Not only do we have to count the screws, we have to count how many times we turn the screw to get to a very specific specification. And it's to a scale that maybe, it's hard to wrap your mind around. And so that's the complexity we have. Now, to illustrate this a little more simple, and not that this would be, everyone on this group would totally get, would absolutely understand it. Just the process will just take time to kind of explain. So let me kind of break it down to a couple of things. First of all, is This is from the NASA handbook of work breakdown structure. And work breakdown structure is going to be probably the most key thing when we're thinking about estimating systemically from the very beginning, when we only have a little bit of information and we're speculating even on technology. And we're going to be studying the process for that. We want a full picture, at least established as far as work breakdown structure, as complex in the front as it is on the end. And the reason is for historical relevance and probability theory. So we understand what the potential cost or swing would be before we actually discover that, that we're behind schedule. And so that's an important thing I wanted to share with you. The other thing is understanding, I think it's this one. Understanding scope, understanding, the master plan layout and how processes interact with each other. So let me blow this up really quick. And this is from a research center that Jabu with Johns Hopkins Applied Physics forwarded over to me. And it's a really good paper. It's in the data room. And matter of fact, this is, just because my eyesight's bad, I'm gonna walk up to the screen. This is an example of something that's in the primary folder. And so this is a study on master planning and things of that nature. And how would you do design? And how would you break it out in work breakdown structure, things of that nature. But if you notice, it's all these different types of systems, but how do they interact with each other? And it's back to Mark's comment at the beginning. It's like, how do all of these components fit together in an estimate? Not only do you have the easy thing like breakout estimate from launch pad to launch pad, it's something very important. We're not just going to show up on the moon and build a project. It won't happen like that. It's going to be phases. The first phase, maybe they test technology. The next one, maybe they do a small structure. So these construction projects are going to be in phases over a period of time before you get to massive projects. So understanding how all the systems tie into each other at the very, very beginning is going to be very key. Now, I want to bring your attention, and this all ties also to the work breakdown structure. So I'm going to talk to you about this one right here. And this is really to illustrate how lean construction currently, and there's some experts like Felipe Engineer, who's on the call. He's an expert in lean construction, nationally known, along with a couple other folks, colleagues that aren't on the call, like Jeffrey Nelson, and a couple others that are experts in progression of construction technology and how we're trying to better predict cost here on Earth. But if you look at the center of this part here, and hopefully you can see my mouse, but if you look at this part here, consider this kind of the core or the master estimate. And each of these are other estimates that have to tie into the master estimate. We're not thinking about we're talking about one master estimate, but each, maybe this is habitat, maybe this is launch pad, maybe these are roads, maybe this is infrastructure and what have you. And then within all of these groups, there's subgroups, because within the habitat, you're going to have structure, you're going to have exterior, you're going to have interior, things of that nature. And so it just keeps cascading out. It's very complex. And all of these need to feed at the very beginning into, at least this is the theory. It doesn't mean it's going to prove out this way, by the way. That's what this group's going to articulate. But it all comes into the master estimate and how each stakeholder, what do they need? What type of data do they need to verify so that next time they understand and they can predict cost and time better? And so that's kind of the big picture. Now let's move into kind of holistically what it looks like. Look, this is just a conceptual rendering just for a visualization, so you can kind of see how the potential thinking is is at the beginning when the teams are being formed. This is very similar, by the way, at the very beginning to mega hospitals. The new trend in construction is to bring everybody forward, the engineers, architects, subcontractors, general contractors, much earlier into that's what we're doing here, terrestrial. It is that we're bringing the teams in the industry, bringing them very early to ask questions and to bring estimating in earlier, where everyone's very engaged. And so what we want to do is we're identifying stakeholders, but we're doing something else. We're identifying the breakouts that they're going to need through the whole journey of execution, meaning even pre-launch. I think the team would argue a consensus within 5 or 4 of us is we think that a payload at launch price becomes irrelevant because once it's a payload, it's insured for a certain amount of cost. And so then it becomes, the price is essentially inert at that point. Then it becomes time and sequence is the big money. Remember, assets cost very expensive per hour. And it could take a year planning to get your materials up on the lunar surface. So the main thing, though, is understanding that we have the iterations as design is moving on and verification, and we want to understand estimating in a work breakdown structure that doesn't start with big, large aggregates at the beginning and then filters into, the detail at the end, because we have to rehearse, we have to model, we have to do scenarios, and also probabilities are spinning as far as prediction of where we're estimating things to be at, whether it's cost or time. And so we want to be thinking full cycle estimating at the very beginning. And the way we do this is we, at estimating and project management, use potential things that are being experimented here on Earth for mega hospital projects. I'm talking like $1 billion plus, where the whole team is brought in ahead of time and they're inventing the systems or establishing what even system are we going to have. A mechanical system, electrical equipment, things of that nature. What type of structural system and the estimate is achieved before we even know what that is. And so this is a really, kind of a really big picture thing that goes very inward, of course. But one of the main points I want to point out, and this is in the fundamental reading, is that there's a scientist, a data scientist from NASA. His name is Dr. Figueroa. And he is doing some, I'm going to say, groundbreaking work with G2, which is a platform that NASA uses, also the Defense Department uses. As an example, it uses this form of prediction and reading of actual real-time conditions. Fighter jets use it to land on aircraft carriers, things of that nature. Well, he's done a paper, and again, we put that in the primary read. We think right now that using his work, NASA's work, is the tool that could be used that would integrate the concept of estimating and the verification needed in real time through the entire cycle. The reason it's important now that the beginning matches the end as far as the breakouts, the work breakdown structure, is because as soon as it's verified, whether it's on the moon or launch or deployment, at any point, there's going to be a stakeholder that needs to know, were we right or were we wrong? And so if we keep a uniform process of work breakdown structure, then as soon as that's read through the G2 system, which NASA controls, then it can give an instant read and recalculate based on historical. Also, if there's a variance, if I'm getting in the weeds too much, I'm almost done, but.
No, you're good.
Okay. And then if there's a variance, in other words, let's say we predicted X and it came X plus. Well, because we're not restructuring and we've kept the work breakdown structure in a very uniform way, then we can do a better a breakdown analysis or a root cause analysis. We don't have to reinvent the game. And so these are the things we're exploring. And when the team discovered Dr. Figueroa's work with NASA, it was enlightening. It was like the cherry on the cake, because verification is one of the most important aspects of any analysis. It's, well, we predicted it, but what's our prediction, and how far were we on or off, and why? So this is a very big picture, but it gives you kind of a general direction of the complexity of the problem that we're diving into, and why we need a team that's diverse like the one we have on the call, and that will be helping on this. Did you want to? If there are any questions, or how do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to unmute and share.
Okay. All right, let's move to the next thing. Again, this will be, this is something that you can dive a day into this. I would say, Felipe, I'm gonna put you on the carpet here. I want your comment on this. We can see the systemic complexity of what we're looking at and why it's important we need such a focus group on construction that ties into aerospace and design and development, and how these really have to work together. We typically haven't built on the moon. We've deployed things, but we haven't really necessarily had the concept of construction on the moon, excavation and foundations and things like that. So that's why the synergy between the two have to really coincide with each other.
Yeah, I think first blush is that you've got like a product, thinking in higher big picture with what you're proposing to do on the moon is like product development. You're doing something unknown environment, new space, and then you're tying that to some existing, I'll call legacy processes with how construction is procured today. And it's a beautiful picture that shows the fractal nature of how it happens and how it can happen, and carrying information back and forth in that feedback loop that's part of the issue with the industry just today. Like, you don't have a lot of transparency. Like, you just can't go somewhere and say things cost X. Like, even estimators can't just go to some benchmark data and with good certainty say, yeah, based on what I hear, this is the cost, because of the just lack of transparency in costing due to how things are priced.
Yeah, that very, very intuitive. I would agree. And if you notice the curve is a time dilation and a probability field. It's not, we're thinking beyond a linear if-then statement, and we're moving more into temporal data, which again, the G2 system, NASA's G2 system, and I don't understand it. That's why we need experts on that side. And I've reached out to Dr. Figueroa, and we're trying to come up with a date where he can come in and talk to the research group. And I encourage everyone on the group to read his paper. And so when we do have him, we can really engage with him and move forward, and consider the great work that they're doing. So, I appreciate your comment, Felipe. And the one thing I'd like to say, and you really hit the head on the nail, which is that free flow left and right, where there's no, you have to have free flow. And the way I like to think about, or the way the team is thinking about it, is there's no resistance in the data flow from the very beginning setup of the estimate to the very end. There's no resistance. And where we get resistance in earth construction is how the work breakdown structure is constantly changed. So there's no continuity that moves back to the beginning again. And so that's the one of the challenges that we have to fix, perhaps, you know.
Yeah.
So, all right, good. Let's great. Thank you, Felipe. That was really good comment. Let's go back to the agenda. And again, we'll have to articulate that theory more in detail. But again, this is our starting place. It doesn't mean we're going to end out this way. This is just a starting place to for concept, and then let the chips fall where they may. So, all right.
So I think we've got just a few minutes left, but maybe if you could just briefly, Paul, talk about kind of the next steps as far as the white paper, and then after that, and kind of how we're going to develop the timelines for when these things need to get done, and to go from there.
Well, I think Jabu with Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab suggested a white paper, which I agree with, because research papers will take more time, and we think maybe starting with a white paper is more efficient for what we're doing. And maybe it can go into a research paper. A white paper, though, will get it done faster, and we can get it, you know, out in the construction and aerospace community faster for input. We're still, we think we'll talk about the two steps and where we are now. I think where we are right now based on implementation, I think.
Okay, yeah. So I think with the team so far, where we are at this point is more of coming up with the conceptual framework of what this approach would look like, and then putting that in the white paper such that it's really starting to share what the thinking is of this group, and what the next steps would be. Again, that's appropriate for the size of the group we have, plus bringing in some other experts in certain areas, really to get that framework for what the process is going to look like moving forward, specifically, you know, within the different aspects of estimating. And then from there, there'll be a point where we decide to move into more of the more detailed structure of each aspect of the conceptual theories and conceptual frameworks. And that becomes more the idea of how we start to implement this into actual processes, and then it moves in forward to actual implementation. So the first phase is where we are now, coming up with these conceptual frameworks, and then after that we'll be really focused on, you know, how this can be implemented moving forward. So what we're focused on now is more of these conceptual frameworks, and that's what the white paper and then some other aspects after that we'll focus on.
So the plan is, and Mark, I was going to reach out to this, and I'm hoping maybe you could be available next week for your input. I was going to get Jabu with Johns Hopkins. I'm hoping you and Brad and myself to talk about the white paper and how big does it need to be, and what's the, you know, and time-wise, you know, what would be the right time. And I was going to reach out to you, but maybe I'll send you an email on that and see if you would be into maybe a 45-minute discussion on that. Because this white paper can be, it's better that we understand the restraints of where we want to keep it to, and what's the ultimate final objective. Because this white paper could be a book, and we just have to be careful about that and be really cognizant of that. So.
Yeah, sure. And next week would be fine.
Okay, thanks,
I
Mark.
have openings here and there, so.
Okay, yeah. Either you can suggest times, or I can throw out some. Probably best, maybe best if you throw out your perfect times, and then we'll adjust our team on this side. No, I'll reach out to you on an email.
Okay, Roger.
All right, thank you.
Well, I think that's kind of all the time we have for today. We've got a couple of minutes left, but with that, Paul and I will hang out for a little bit longer if there's any other questions, comments, or if you want to discuss anything specific. Otherwise, we truly appreciate your time
Yeah,
and
very much.
your interest, and we look forward to working with each of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if anyone wants to, like Brad said, if you want to hang out a little bit, just you can put on your camera and ask questions, or we can end the call. It's up to each individual person.
Hey, Paul, this is Keith.
Hey, Keith.
Hey, sorry, I had to step out for a phone call, but
You want me to repeat it?
that's all right. That's why you got to record it.
Yeah, that's true.
In terms of the schedule, I missed that part. What's the
Yeah.
timeline effort and suspense dates that you're looking at?
Sure.
So at this point, that's what we were kind of talking about there at the end. We're going to meet with Mark and a couple other people to figure out what is that timeline, and more specifically, what is the expectation for the white paper? How much content should we provide in there? And then from that, we'll be able to come up with a timeline, not just for these initial phases, but also the implementation phases after that. So that's a great way of saying that we don't have that information yet, but we will be getting that soon.
Yeah, I work for the government. I hear those lines. But anyway, no, understood. So it's looking like it's an effort. It's going to take up to, I don't know, 6 months or more plus.
I think, for me, I think my gut thinks it's a 6-month process.
Yeah.
Any further than that, I think we're prolonging. We're pretty, we're in our 6 months now, from very, very, very beginning of perception, maybe 5 months.
Yeah.
And so I think, and that's at the stage where I think we're ready for a white paper, and then maybe 5 to 6 months, maybe 6 months means that we're publishing the white paper, and Brad and I and other people on the team, we're already starting to do conferences on this subject matter. So the theory is pretty far along. I would say if we didn't have the theory, then we'd be closer to 10 to a year, but now I think we're at 5 to 6 months.
Understood. Okay, great. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Keith. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, I'll be there in September.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And for those of you that don't know, Keith is a great jazz trumpet player, and he's going to be playing at a big band in September in our hometown, and we'll be playing in the same band. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul's a outstanding saxophone player. So
that's very kind of you.
well, hey, we'll talk to you soon, and we'll get moving forward. Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Bye. Any other comments? And then I think we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. John or Steve or Ann, any comments? I think we'll go ahead and end the meeting. All right, awesome. Thank you everybody for attending, and those of you who are watching the recording, thank you very much. And even though you weren't here, you were here in spirit. So looking forward to everybody on that list is pretty amazing, and we look forward to really rolling up our sleeves and really addressing a complex but exciting challenge. And this is the team to do it. So outstanding. All right. And should we check the chat before I move it?
I think I've been.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop status, and then I'm gonna end the recording. Right.